Hi, this is Nick from PrimeLoops.com. Today we're going to look at creating a beat using beatbox samples. Along the way we'll do some familiar things, that is putting together a beat and adding some effects to our sounds, and we'll also get into some automation of our parameters. What I'm going to do is put together just one pattern, and then once we're done with that we'll take it and run some effects automation over it in the playlist view. So as you can see, I have a kit loaded up here and it's full of all these crazy human beatbox sounds. So there's tons of creative potential with this stuff, and it really just comes down to whatever kind of beat you feel like writing in the moment. Right now I feel like writing a breakbeat, so I'll get started on doing that. Again, just as a reminder, you can load in new sounds just by dragging them from the browser over here to the channel interface here. I'll just come down and find another sound that we can use. That one will work. So let's drag it over, put it in there. So I'll just go through these sounds one by one and start laying down a pattern. Let's see how this sounds. Alright, that'll work as a nice kick drum foundation for the track. Now I'm going to make this second kick drum kind of work with the first one. Next we'll start dealing with our snare type sounds. Now I really like this next sound. I'm actually going to put it on the second hit right here, so it kind of stutters. I think I'll also add another one of these rim snares right here, and then have this rude kick sound play off of it right here. That's working nicely. Now with this rush snare sound, I'm actually going to surround some of my snare hits with it, so it'll create some expectation in the listener and then surprise them with something else that's happening in the rhythm. So I'll put one here and here. The sound that you're hearing, of course, is just an S sound with a plosive right before it, which simulates a drum really well. So I'll drop another one of those right here because they serve pretty well to emphasize the rude kick sound. Alright, we're almost there, just a few more sounds to lay down. So now on to the APL sound. Again, it's another kind of S sound, which again is really good for emphasizing other drums with a heavier attack phase. So let's put that right here to line up both with the 808 snare and the simple kick. And then another one right here, which will serve both to emphasize these drum hits right here, and then lead into this very last 808 kick before the turnaround into the beginning of the pattern. Now one of the crazier sounds I have loaded up here is this Buddhist cat. I specifically loaded that sound up in order to differentiate these two APL hits from one another, and I think it would sound good right here. It's pretty weird, but I'm kind of in that mood right now, so let's just go with it. Now one thing you might be noticing as I lay down this beat is that I'm running into a little bit of clipping up here on the peak meter. After I get done laying down this beat, I'll go back and remedy that by re-leveling some of these hits and also strapping a compressor across the beat in order to do some subtle volume shaping. So hang tight and we'll re-level some things in order to rein this back in. So now coming down here to the damn bass sound, I'll just put one of those in to emphasize this 808 kick up here, which leads into the turnaround. Now I'll put in a scratch sound right here, and then I'll put this stabby little scat sound right here. So there's the completed beat as it stands. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go through and re-level some of these sounds as I said before, and then we'll get into tweaking some of the sounds a bit further, loading up some effects, and then doing some automation. So the first thing I'll do is just bring down a couple of these kick sounds just a bit. And also this snare sound should come down just a tiny bit. And as you can see, the peak meter is already telling us that the beat is far more leveled out than it was before. I also wanted to bring these down just a tad. I can also bring down the Buddhist cat sound just a little. And APL can come way down. And now I'll just do some rough pans so that we can balance out the stereo spectrum a bit. I'll take these two snares and kind of pan them slightly opposite to one another. And do the same thing with rush snare and APL. Everything's sounding pretty well balanced, except I want one more sound kind of on the right side of the stereo spectrum in order to balance out the beat as a whole. So maybe I'll take 808 snare here and just pan it slightly right. Alright, that's sounding pretty good to start out with. So now let's move on to the effects in the mixer view. Remember, the mixer is accessible through this button right here. So the first thing to do on the master section of our beat here is just to lay in the fruity compressor and then dial in some settings to tame some of the bigger peaks that are causing us to go in the red up here in the peak meter. So first I'll set up some audible settings on the compressor, say around a 4.2 to 1 ratio, and a pretty healthy release time and an attack time that's hopefully not going to squash the kick drum. And now that we have those set up in a rough manner, I can play the beat back and bring the threshold down until I hear the compressor start to kick in. And indeed, I didn't have to bring that threshold down very far until I heard the compressor really doing its work on the beat here. So now I'll just go through and tweak the ratio, release, and attack settings until I find a sound that I like. Now that I've balanced out some of those major peaks in the sound, and we're not constantly going into the red up here in the peak meter, we can move on to doing some automation of effects as well as individual sound parameters. I'll bring up the playlist view right here, and then I'm going to go through my sounds and find one that I'd like to automate first.